Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the X Button Season 3, Episode 2. I'm your host, Alejandro, with me is Curly Man.
Paul, hey everybody, how's it going?
How you doing, Paul?
Doing all right. I seem to believe that we've been invaded by someone, though. I just don't feel alone here.
Yeah, not anymore, and I'm excited for that because today we have a very special guest, my friend Sebastion from the Single Player Podcast. How you doing, Sebastion?
Man, my power level is above 9,000 today. I'm so excited to be here on this show. Whenever you sent the invitation, I kid you not, I was just like, I had to pause the game and then just guitar riffed in the middle of my living room. I'm so hyped to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, I'm excited for you to be here. Just for like context, because I've mentioned it a couple times, like late last year and in the first episode for this year, like I was a guest spot on your show, like after around the time that I reviewed Evil West. And I remember when I was in your show, I was like, that was so excited. I would love to have you in the show. And here we are. And I was like, let's start the year strong. Like episode 2, we got a guest. We haven't had a guest in a year. We had our friend Zach. Yeah. The last time we had a guest was in October 2021 for a long Metroid Dread discussion that we thought it was going to be more contentious than it actually was. Remember that, Paul?
That was a time, though. That was a 3-episode saga between all of our different episodes because we had a issue with consolidation, and it would always come around to Metroid Dread during that like week or 2-week period for those 3 episodes. And my goodness, was that a time?
Yeah, it feels like a million years ago, especially after 2022. That felt like 10 years in one. That a year that wouldn't end, but it was good.
Yeah,
for games like we talked with Game of the Year. So real quick, Sebastion, if you have them like in the top of your mind, what was your 10 favorite games of last year? Just like quick.
Okay. Yeah. So just spoiler alert for the podcast this week where I'm unveiling the single player experience top 10 games of the year. It's like you said, it was a stacked year in video games, but I felt like the indies sort of carried a lot of 2022.
Yes.
It was kind of indie heavy more so than it was AAA heavy. But my top 10 games were in descending order: were Beacon Pines, Marvel Snap, Jack Move, which is another indie, Cult of the Lamb, Prodeus, Vampire Survivors, Rogue Legacy 2, Elden Ring.
There you go.
Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, then God of War Ragnarok.
High five, brother.
Yes.
This peasant put Elden Ring as number 1 and God of War as number 2.
I had to give it because of the highs of Elden Ring for me hit so high that I haven't felt since like my early days playing Legend of Zelda, that even though God of War Ragnarok was like a more consistent meal, it's like I almost had to give it to it at a default, but it was such a battle for me between the two that it really messed with me. But also I have this weird bias where the more time I play a game, usually the more positive it sits in my heart. And because I played about 2 whole freaking months of Elden Ring, it just kind of eked it out on that one. But it's a fully valid admitting this top 3 this year that was stacked, or last year now.
Yeah, when it came to like the big games, like even though they were spread apart, they were really good. It's just I wish there were more throughout the year.
You said top 3. What was the number 3 for you?
Mine was Horizon.
Okay.
Paul was Witcher.
Oh, okay.
The next gen version specifically for its quality of life and added quests and added dialogue, all that stuff.
I only played like an hour of it, so I didn't like list it anywhere because I had just been playing Kirby, which you told me to play, Sebastion.
And the Forgotten Lands.
Yeah, Forgotten Lands was so good. It was like so damn good. I was like, I'm thankful he told me about it in the episode because when you're traveling, you use the Switch a lot. So
yeah, it is really good. I think, to me, this Kirby game is probably the Breath of the Wild version of Kirby, like where it feels like the next big step in Kirby's iteration. Like I don't foresee the mainline. This should be the mainline Kirby game going forward, and all of them, all the other games should be like the side pieces, so to speak.
Yeah, especially like harkening back to that like level based platformer that reminds me of like something like 3D World and what was the other, and Crash Bandicoot with the little secrets if you like poke around, and just the bundle of joy that is the visuals, the soundtrack, and all that. I have recommended Paul, like you need to play this one whenever you can for the Switch.
I even own it because Sebastion, I bought it for my wife, who I try to get into more games, whatever they are, as long as it works on her, because I really want to get her into it. Unfortunately, she hasn't touched it quite yet, because it takes a lot of effort and energy for her to play any video game whatsoever. I can barely get her out of Pokemon.
Yeah,
but
it's all about that Pokemon.
I'm gonna get her eventually.
I'll say I'm proud that none of us had Pokemon for good reason. Neither Arceus or the later one.
Yeah, I think Pokemon. Surprisingly enough, I think this is the best Pokemon game, and by this I mean like Pokemon Violet and Scarlet that we've seen in the last like probably 10 years, even with the technical performances.
That's why everyone tells me it's like, even though from the outside like, the technical performances are like so dire, it's like at its core it's like the dream Pokemon that I'm like, I'm gonna wait. Gotta wait until I hear that all the things have been cleaned up, but because I've been wanting that console like evolution for Pokemon. This felt like the halfway point, but it was fun to meme. Some of the glitches that we saw were like legendary. But,
justifiable judgments for sure, but like you said, having played Scarlet for quite a little bit before I dropped it like a bad habit, it was fun. It was really fun. I have to give it its props for that.
Yes. So anyway, enough of the preamble for that, because today is a very special episode where we're gonna list about what we could say it's the most exciting games for us for the year to come. And most of us is just what we know for just half a year. But before we start, there's a reminder that this is the X Button Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Thursdays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing, available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find the links in the RSS feed at anchor.fm/escape-gaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. So, usually in the show, this is where we would talk about what we've been playing, and then we'll talk about news. We ain't doing that right now, because we're going to talk about our most exciting games for 2023, which is looking insane. The last year that I remember being this insane was probably 2017. If I like, just in how much is just packed from the beginning. 2022 looked like that initially. Then when you look at it, it was like, it seemed that way, but it didn't turn out. But this feels like constant meal, like a constant buffet that at least just until June we're gonna be so fed. So each one of us have like, I told everyone, yeah, get your 10 ready from 10 to 1, and then we're gonna be like reading from bottom to top, like what our most anticipated games are, and like the episodes that I do with Paul when we do most anticipated or even game of the year. If there's a game that overlaps and we have it like a different spot, that's when we're gonna talk about, without revealing where we put it. So, Sebastion, you're a guest here, so you're gonna be the number one. Tell us, what is your 10th most anticipated game of 2023?
Well, thank you for giving me the first, I guess you could say, sword to fall on, so to speak. My number 10 game is a little indie called Have a Nice Death.
Have a Nice Death. Okay.
Yeah, Have a Nice Death. It's an indie game that was revealed. It was in the latest indie showcase from Nintendo. It's right now. It's in. It's out for PC, but it'll be out for Switch later this year. Have a Nice Death kind of looks like a mixture between Hades and.
Ooh. You're speaking my language there.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it gives me Hades vibes with the art style, but it has sort of a mixture between that and some of the other good Metroidvania games that we've played over the last couple of years. And I kind of really like that aspect about it. And then it kind of reminds me so much of some of the other games that I really enjoyed. What was the game with the bird and the sword? I'm trying to
Death's Door.
Death's Door, thank you. It reminds me so much of Death's Door with the gothic art style and then some of the movements. It's kind of a fusion between Rogue Legacy and Death's Door, and I'm all there for it.
God,
I'm kind of getting a lot of vibes from Hollow Knight with better movement from this one as well, and I'm vibing with it. I like it. Good choice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Paul, what is your number 10?
My number 10, in some weird, just goes to show how great this year is going to be, is my 10th is Destiny 2 Lightfall.
Awesome.
Okay.
All the way down at the bottom for me. It used to be so much higher, and then as I realized more and more things were coming out, that just got bumped further and further, and unfortunately that is due to the Heavy limitations of the way Destiny 2 has been kind of treating us lately, as Alejandro and I have discussed at length many times. At first, the campaign for the Witch Queen was fantastic last year. It blew everyone away by adding a legendary mode, really giving us a lot of hearkening back to the difficulty and intensity of co-op Halo legendary playthroughs. And this was the first time we got that. Unfortunately, everything since that release has been very lackluster. A lot of
in comparison.
Yeah, in comparison, yes, you're absolutely right. Because it was probably okay for what it was in the past, but because the campaign was so good at a high note on the start of all this, it just kind of went down from there. And now I have really no desire to play the game, even though they're going to add some good stuff apparently. And just once again goes to show what we've got stacked lined up for us this year. But that's it for me.
I hate how similar we are. That's my number 10 also. No, like for real. I was like, I couldn't believe it.
Second time, baby.
In our top 10, we put it at number 9 also without knowing. That's what's so far. That was what's so funny. But yeah, like it's funny because when we did this episode, Paul, last year, Destiny 2 Witch Queen was my number 2, most anticipated. So
yeah,
like,
I don't even remember what mine was, but it was
yours was an honorable mention because you had just returned to Destiny. So I'm excited for Lightfall, like specifically because of the campaign, which compared to Witch Queen last year, I was excited for Destiny 2 overall, just thinking how that year was gonna go. And it was just like a really great campaign, and then the rest of the live service stuff was where it got a little iffy, but such is the strength of that campaign that I can also agree that just if it's just as close as Witch Queen was, with this new one that's coming, especially with the new aesthetic that's like cyberpunkian with the strength. I don't know. Have you seen the trailer, Sebastion?
Yeah, I saw the trailer. I'm gonna be frank with y'all. I haven't played Destiny since its launch. Like,
frankly, don't even worry about it.
Yeah,
it's a whole thing, and we're in a weird specific niche that we got back into. That this one up here,
I got him in.
To get back in after like 7 years or something, and then I got kind of suckered into a cult. So I mean, that's just where I'm at now.
Yeah, our clan Chaotic. You can always join there. we sharpen you through all the high level content, but yeah, like if the campaign is just as good, especially with how cool the aesthetic looks with the new like grappling hook, which is the strand ability, the vibe, which I'm such a sucker for Thor Ragnarok, and it feels like they're taking cues from that. And I'm like, at least from a campaign perspective, I have high hopes because I know that now they tease us we used to be the shooter guys back when we were in Halo. We were the best campaigns. We can still do that. So that's why I also have it at number 10. It would be higher if this year wouldn't be so damn exciting. Yeah. So Sebastion, you're number 9.
My number 9 is another indie game, and this one's from Devolver Digital. It is Gunbrella. We do not have a release date for this one yet. It's coming out for Switch and PC. Gunbrella is like a noir punk action adventure game, kind of set in a weird mixture between like the Wild West and kind of like a noir punk setting. And it's like you're a cowboy and you have like the penguins like gun umbrella, so to speak. And it's a side scroller action adventure, and it just looks like a ton of fun. Plus Devolver Digital doesn't miss. Like they put out something and it's a banger pretty much every single time.
I mean, Cult of the Lamb was from them last year. That was such a movement.
Yeah.
Wish I played it.
Oh man, you should. You should. Devolver Digital though, like when it comes to like indie games though, they put out banger after banger. Return to Monkey Island was pretty good. They had one Skate Story.
Published that one?
Yeah, they published Return to Monkey Island. And then Wizard with a Gun is another one that's coming soon. Skate Story, Stick It to the Stickman is another one. But yeah, they put out some really cool and unique indie games, and I always look forward to what they have to offer. And Gunbrella looks like it's just going to be one of those like high action, fast paced, like small scale, like side scrollers, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, I hope we get a release date for that and that it comes out at quiet time of the year, because if it releases in the middle of all of that, no way we play it. Like April's looking slightly quiet. Maybe they could put it out there. There's only
I would recommend like that July, August kind of time frame. You know, that I feel like the only thing around that I think is what's close to Starfield time, and maybe
Starfield could be even earlier.
Yeah.
Because they announced today when we're recording that they're doing like a showcase for a couple Xbox games, and they specifically mentioned we're also preparing a Starfield presentation, and that was like in that E3 like timetable when they were like all the games that we're talking about here, they're gonna
next
be out
12 months
before in the next 12 months before we do another showcase, so it could be even earlier. It's gonna be pandemonium, I tell you. Paul, number 9 for you.
Number 9 for me was, oh gosh, I scrolled up and was an idiot. Diablo 4.
Awesome.
For me, yeah. I am such a newcomer to the series. You were able to convince me to get Diablo 3, whatever edition that they had, deluxe,
Eternal
whatever.
edition.
Eternal, there it is. Almost called it extended edition. Oh gosh, like I'm watching a Lord of the Rings movie. Yeah, so I really like the gameplay loop, but then it was also kind of an issue where the quality of life issues weren't really there for me because I'm such a stickler, I feel, for quality of life lately, where if I have to really step back a decade or two without the help of nostalgia, it really pumps the brakes on me sometimes. So I'm really hoping for all of that stuff. The overworld exploration looked really cool. The customization, the just, hey, pick a whole bunch of different classes and have fun with it. And it reminds me of my days playing Borderlands 2. So really want to try that out. Really want to see what that's going to be like. And hopefully it can be one of my mainstays where I've got 10 minutes. Let me go through some Diablo 4 or something.
Diablo 4. So Diablo 4 is also in my list. Is it in yours, Sebastion?
No. So far, neither one of your games are in my list yet.
Good. We got plenty
of variety. That's what I love. when there's like it doesn't seem like we all like think the same. Like that's sometimes like me and Paul, we sometimes are the same and then just slightly vary at certain points. Like Diablo 4 is also on my list, just not at number 9. I'm way more excited for that one, specifically for being like the original looter. Like especially Borderlands and Destiny were like the looters that really got me in. And then when we got Reaper of Souls in 2014, that was like my gateway into trying Diablo because I didn't have a PC at the time, and also screw PC. And like you're just back then when you're like young and you're like, oh yeah, you have to like spend how much money to like have like a really cool PC? Like, no, screw that. I'm console gamer for life. And seeing like especially the presentation they did for Diablo at last year's like Xbox showcase, that they showed so much of it, like how great it looks, like just how expansive they have made all the systems, and then being like the original guys. I'm like, if they nail this, especially if they manage to launch this year and they don't have Error 37 Nightmare like Diablo 2 back in 2012, that was like legendary like botch launch and no auction houses. That's gonna be like, if they launch with an auction house, it's gonna be hell to pay, literal.
Yeah, I remember because that's like an entire real-time marketing system, isn't it?
Yeah, they removed it. It was like for an entire year you could like get loot and sell it for real life money. And
gosh!
And that was like devaluing the loot game. And on top of that, it was like many people are getting rich just selling their like in-game currency. It was like NFTs before NFTs were a thing. So, which is crazy. But I hope they nail it, and especially we got a release date June 6th. So halfway through a year, that's gonna be like a big, nice game for the summer amidst a very, very busy summer. So my number 9, Paul and Sebastion. Paul, you're gonna crucify me for this. The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
fake fan.
It's
fake fan.
Yeah,
let's go.
To be fair, if we flash back a year ago,
I remember.
It was a honorable mention, even though I knew it was like it had the 2022 year. I put it as honorable mention because, to me, like I enjoy Breath of the Wild, but I also think it's just wildly overrated, especially now that we have had. Many people are like, this is the greatest game of all time, especially like IGN recently doing it. And I'm like, it's one of the greatest open world games ever, but best game of all time? Screw you. No, I'm not going to reward a game that like your weapons break every 5 hits. And I know because I've been replaying it recently.
That's absolutely. Because I'm giving you a hard time about it, but all the stuff that you're saying is super valid because I've also harped on a lot of the issues of it as well. But I gotta cause fake drama for the fun of it.
I know.
Click
I love
the
it.
title and everything. But yeah, continue.
But I see the applause, Sebastian. I think we were in slightly agreement.
Oh yeah. I'm right there with you. I don't think Breath of the Wild is one of the greatest games of all time for me personally speaking. I am big on narrative in video games. Breath of the Wild is, if Breath of the Wild was a movie, it would be bare, like just bare. There's nothing there. There's nothing of substance, and really there's like very little to actually motivate you to do task after task after task. And I get it. They say, hey, like, we want you to have freedom, but freedom can also be like Elden Ring showed that you can have, somewhat of a story there and still have that level of freedom.
There's more of a drive with Elden Ring, and that's why like I'm so curious, especially like I'm a big Zelda fan for life. Like I love Ocarina of Time. Wind Waker's like my all-time favorite. I have a soft spots for Twilight Princess. Skyward Sword can screw itself. But yeah, like Breath of the Wild, I feel like it was a great game, just not a great Zelda. It was a terrible Zelda game. In what I like about Zelda, like I remember the stories of Zelda games like so well. Even just replaying Ocarina of Time here and there in Nintendo Switch Online, that story is like so ingrained in my mind and how memorable it is that I'm like, Breath of the Wild doesn't even come close to what I love about Zelda. But it revolutionized how you think of open world games. Like Elden Ring, that absolutely was like took the inspirations from Zelda. I'm really curious now how this Zelda is gonna go in a post Elden Ring world. Like, will people enjoy going back to an open world where your weapons break all the time? Where when it rains, you can't even climb? Where you have to like be eating? Where you have a limited stamina meter? Like Elden Ring, it was like, here's how have the great Zelda open world without all the BS from Zelda. I wonder if they're...
I'm curious. My thing about Zelda is like, if Zelda like Tears of the Kingdom is just Breath of the Wild 2, I better hear the same conversations that I heard about God of War Ragnarok, because everyone just said this is just more God of War 20.
Or Horizon. Like they got unfairly maligned also. So.
Yeah, I'm like, I need to hear that narrative, because if it's just more of the same, I'm like, don't switch it up, because this is a Nintendo franchise and because this is Zelda. I'm like, y'all stuck to your guns when it came to voting Elden Ring above God of War just because God of War felt quote unquote more the same. I need to see that energy here when if Zelda feels more of the same to basically Breath of the Wild, so to speak.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to see, like, maybe Nintendo could be the one that shocks us. I don't want to like discount them, and to me, like I always say, like even not being the biggest fan of Breath of the Wild, like that's still my favorite game of the Switch, like AAA. That's what's crazy. And more importantly, like I want to see if it actually runs on the Switch like 6 years later, because there's been like many like hints of like, this is looking extra spicier. It's like, is it because of a new system that now we know it's going to be the Switch 2 based on like some Digital Foundry findings that happened like late last year, early into this year? So that's going to be, we could probably see gaming hypocrisy happening here based on how much it evolves and how that game is received based on a lot of conversation we've seen. But yeah.
So I'm gonna have to go ahead and say my piece if you're finished up now, because of course Tears of the Kingdom is in my top 10 somewhere. It is not as high as, honestly, it's not as high as you probably think. Really?
Okay, that's a surprise, because I was expecting it to be at the very top.
It is not at the very top because of everything else that's coming out this year. And also, if it had come out last year for Sebastion, it was my top anticipated game of that year, and of course it got pushed out of it. Really disappointed me and kind of made me cool off with an extra year to think about Breath of the Wild compared to everything else that we've now been getting, and then Elden Ring coming in and changing the complete game about open world exploration. And it's absolutely valid, everything that Alejandro and you said, because the story was practically non-existent. We need a lot more of that. We need
Age of Calamity has better story. It has the story I wanted out of it.
And what was I going to say? Also, the gameplay changes at this point. Even a company that was more afraid of the changes of the times, like say we get a different developer making something like Breath of the Wild 2, would see Elden Ring and would immediately pivot into whatever else after that point. They would try to update whatever they were doing. Nintendo is not the people that are going to do something like that. So what they've locked in at this point is going to be the way it is, which means that we're probably going to be taking a step back tech-wise, mechanics-wise, gameplay-wise, for things that we've already seen done better. So all of that stuff made me really drop down my excitement level of it and almost made me a little apprehensive and afraid, because Legend of Zelda is one of my favorite series, despite having played barely half of them, honestly, because Nintendo won't make them available to play on modern consoles.
Yeah, by the way, like, did I tell you a story, Sebastion, that me and Paul, like, we heard the rumors that Wind Waker and Twilight Princess were going to be revealed at our Direct, and we woke up at like 6 a.m. to watch that damn thing, only to not get them. Like, that, like, it ruined my day. It literally ruined my day. I kept like texting him all day. I was like, I'm grumpy, like coffee's not helping. I wanted that energy. So,
man, that's messed up.
Yeah, messed up. We were really hype about that. And despite the fact that we got gameplay and a title reveal of Tears of the Kingdom, it just did not help either of us. And we were sour because we could not get our Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. So maybe that's us being pretentious about it, spoiled fans of Nintendo games. But anyway, yeah, so that's really most of my piece. But at the same time, the reason why Elden Ring hit so much for me is because I love that style of game that has like that really good diegetic exploration where you could just see something and be like, that looks cool, and then you're rewarded for the time you take to go over that way and try to figure it out. And I still have so few games that give me that kind of feeling, that I could just waste 8 hours walking around this weird region and be like, that looks kind of cool, like let's go check that out. And I hope I get more of that. I hope the gameplay is enough, and I hope they added a lot more story. But that was it for me. Now,
and dungeons, let's just throw it out. We need those dungeons back, not just
certainly.
shrines or divine beasts.
Sebastion, so now I think it's back to you.
Yeah, you're number 8.
I mean, we can keep talking about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom because it's number 8 for me.
Yes.
It's number 8.
Hey,
awesome.
all right.
Reasonable minds.
Yeah, so I mean, for everything y'all said about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, like it's still one of my most anticipated games, because Zelda was like my first, Breath of the Wild was my first Zelda game of all time.
Oh,
like,
wow, that was your first. Interesting.
Yeah, because like I was one of those people who, I had a Game Boy, I had a GameCube, and I did not like the direction Nintendo was taking with the Wii and the Wii U. So I skipped both of those generations completely, and and the DS didn't entice me enough to jump into there.
Those Zelda sucked over in the DS, so you didn't.
Oh, really? So I'm like,
I don't know about all that.
Spirit Tracks and
Spirit Tracks slapped. Then like the boat one, whatever that was. I don't even remember though, but it doesn't matter.
It says everything.
Yeah,
I borrowed it from my brother.
So yeah, I was like, I almost was like fasting from Nintendo for almost like a decade, it seemed. So whenever I got the Switch, because I was enticed with playing my games on the go, I knew I had to play the game everyone was talking about. So Zelda, this was my first ever Zelda game, and I loved a lot of what Zelda Breath of the Wild had to offer, but I didn't love the game as much as a lot of other people did. I was missing some of that narrative, I guess you could say, pull to basically, to kind of like go on to the next thing and the next thing, to the next thing. And I'll be real with you, it was like I liked Breath of the Wild in 2017, but like I thought other games were prettier. I liked some of the gameplay elements of other things. I was tired of having to like manage my swords and manage my weapons all the time. Playing Zelda Breath of the Wild in 2017 with everyone, and with how everyone raved about it, I was almost that Black Panther moment of like whenever Michael B. Jordan's character Killmonger was just standing over Black Panther and saying, "This is your king, right? So this is your king." Like that's what it felt like to me. But I still liked what I played enough of it to want to play the sequel.
And that's the thing, like even though like I had a negative, like it felt more negative when I put it at 9. This is like 10 most anticipated games. That there's still a lot of good that I want to see, because to me Zelda is so special as a series. So the world stops for Zelda for me, and I just wanted to be like, you nailed some things, please bring back some Zelda stuff from like the previous ones. Make it like the complete package, and just make the weapons so damn durable, please. Like I don't want them to break like glass. At least do like Dark Souls, or even like all the Souls games before Elden Ring, where you could even go repair them. I'd be okay with that. They just have to make them like all glassy. So
I think in the end, the biggest problem was that the issue with the weapons was so heavily tied to why you needed to constantly go looking for things. That was like the only thing you could really gain out of it, because you didn't even get money that often in that game. I feel it was always different weapons that you had to like keep rotating through like a roulette wheel. And even the fact that the highest level shield is the shield from the main, all of the rest of the games is still breakable for a stupidly high amount of money, and that the Master Sword can also break and has to like be on a 10-minute cooldown or something is just like unacceptable nowadays. Like, you gotta at least give us a little something, even if it's like less damage or whatever it is. But yeah, so all these valid points. Still,
we're excited for it, but it's just like we're not looking for it as the sequel to the greatest game of all time, because it simply isn't. And it grinds me to my gears when I see it like at the top. I'm like, nope, can't do that. Paul, what's your number 8?
My number 8 was Armored Core 6.
Oh shoot, that's this year.
Yep. Okay, so anyway, out of some weird hole that I fell into as a kid, I've talked to Alejandro about this. I had terrible taste in video games growing up because I had no way of knowing which ones were good, which ones were bad. I'd look at the cover and it was like, hey, is that attached to something I know? Let's buy the Robotech PS2 game. Let's buy what were the other dumb licensed games that we all played together? Yeah, Gundam, all the other stuff. Oh man, but I never touched Armored Core. I was a real Ace Combat kid myself, but then at the same time, I just never really got a chance to play any of the Armored Core games by the time I realized that was a good series. And now, having seen seen that trailer, which absolutely busted, and that was amazing by itself, but then going back and watching gameplay of what the old games were like, and them guaranteeing, hey guys, it's not going to be like From Software's games now, it's Armored Core, it's a very different style of game, and seeing just how that worked with the different weapons, the different traversal methods, and how you can really customize your mech. And I was like, so I mean, like, I grew up watching all the Robotech, the Transformers, and then getting really into Gundam later on. So the fact that I haven't touched one of the best mech game series in the world is a travesty, and I am ecstatic that I get to play a modern version of that this year. So that's my 8.
Awesome.
That one feels like the one big game that feels delayable, so to speak.
Yeah, I can give it that. This is really that blue sky period for me, where I just say, hey, if it comes out, this is what I'm anticipating. But then there's also that other category that's like, there's a sliding scale of like how likely it is to actually come out. But if it was, that would be there. So that's why I kind of put some of these in. That's why Breath of the Wild 2 was out back last year, even though Alejandro told me and warned me from the start that it was like, hey buddy, this was probably not coming out. I was like,
it didn't even have a name. It was the sequel to Breath of the Wild. So.
I did not need that kind of negativity in my life, and I got it anyway. So that's where we're at. But yeah, neither of y'all had that, right?
Yeah, I forgot. No. I completely forgot that they put a 2023 year for that. So
hey, I represented.
And I will say that a lot of people will be new Armored Core fans because it's a From Software game. They have earned it. I remember like the reveal at the Game Awards. It was like From Software, and you hear all the screams. It's like they had that kind of clout. So, number 8, for me, it's Hogwarts Legacy.
Whoa.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I feel this game is like, I always say that when a licensed product is done right, like if it is given the time and care that they need, they can be like some of the coolest game settings that you can have. And I feel like the idea for Hogwarts Legacy being like a Harry Potter RPG that's like very Witcher-esque, especially being given the time and care that he has, especially like it looks way better than I ever thought it would look like when they did that big State of Play deep dive. I'm like, hell yeah. Like I remember when we got Middle-earth, Shadow of War, and Shadow of Mordor, and be like, this is cool seeing like this level of AAA like production for Lord of the Rings. And I wish something like Star Wars, like other than like the Jedi Fallen Order, like in AAA, could get that kind of TLC. So I feel like this game will get fairly maligned for obvious extraneous reasons in regards to its author. But I do believe that the team that's working on this is like doesn't share the same beliefs as that certain author, and that they're putting their time, soul, and care into this, because especially for a licensed product. And I feel like I definitely want to see like how that comes together, because I want those devs to feel rewarded, like especially if it turns out good. And I like Harry Potter myself, and I would just want a really good one, since like Chamber of Secrets back in like the PS2 game days, which was basically a Zelda game. So yeah. Hogwarts Legacy number 8.
I also have it somewhere on my list as well.
Awesome.
And so I guess just like what you said, really, I don't have too much else besides the fact that we're finally getting that opportunity to see the dark side of the Magic world that really was never touched on in any of the media. It was just like, hey, this is evil, don't do that. And I always found it kind of strange that the one spell that just kind of like peacefully ends somebody's life is not an unforgivable curse, but then we have something that cause cuts on every person's body and turn you into a horrifying creature is totally fine to do and cause on other people. So I kind of like some representing of the dark side of the Magic and see what we're really going to do, get open world. Same thing with like Star Wars. We've been wanting an open world game for the Star Wars world for a long time. Harry Potter is like built for like a good, here's magic, go have fun in this world that was built. And just like you said, where all the people that are continuing to work on this thing, I feel, I don't want to say outweighs the evil of the creator of the series, but at least that, I don't know, I want to at least support the people that put work into this to try to make it into something that, despite all the effort that the creator tried to put to ruin people's goodwill, they're still trying to kind of hold things together. But yeah, that's it for me.
Right. You have it in your list, Sebastion, or not?
It's an honorable mention, and that's
awesome.
It's a shame because I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. But like, you know, I think this game has to be a like basically what Batman Arkham Asylum was to for the Batman universe and the Batman franchise. I think it has to be that, to where it revolutionized what we think about Harry Potter games, or it's going to be bad. And I don't think there's an in between there. Like I think like with that team that's working on it, a team that hasn't done anything other than Skylanders before in their career, like, and
Cars 3.
And Cars 3 game. Yeah. So I'm like, there, you know, like I wish there was a little more, I guess you could say, of a pedigree behind it. But you know, like I'm liking what I see about it. I'm very much a Team Hufflepuff person myself, so I'm gonna have to represent and play. But I do have some trepidation about this game, and I hope that it's unfounded, and I hope I am proven to be wrong. But I don't know. It's like, there's so many good things that I see about this game, but there's so many things that I'm like, ooh, why doesn't this game have Quidditch? Like, why? Yeah.
They confirmed that recently, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, I'm like, why doesn't this game have Quidditch?
Your
I'm like,
character is canon, not a jock, and therefore not allowed to play Quidditch.
Exactly. I'm like, it's just some of the little things that sort of feel like it's going to add up a little in the long run. But I hope that I'm proven completely wrong, and I hope that this game is absolutely amazing.
Let's hope. It's so close. We're like, what, 3 weeks away?
Yeah.
That's insane. So crazy.
Say that again?
3 weeks away, in February 10th.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Oh. Anyway,
consider the big game of February, Paul. So, Sebastion, what's your number 7?
Number 7. Okay, so I am so curious to see if this is on any of your lists, because once again, I'm going on the indie side of things. It is a little game called Lies of P.
Honorable mention.
Is that on your honorable mention?
Yeah. It was honorable mention for definitely me as well.
Oh my goodness. I'm so looking forward to this game. It looks like Bloodborne, but in a Pinocchio like skin, basically. The action looks very frenetic and fast paced. The gothic like environment and aesthetic looks right up my alley. I think that this feels like it was like a love child between Sekiro and Bloodborne in all the best of ways. And I hope that it just absolutely comes out and blows people away.
Yeah, just aesthetic alone is so striking. Like, just how ingenious the idea of like a Pinocchio horror game actually is like, and giving people the Bloodborne spiritual successor that they've been craving for, that Sony refuses to give us, or even remaster. Poor Bloodborne is still stuck at 1080p 30, even though it's still perfectly playable. I replayed it this year, So yeah, that was an honorable mention for me, and I'm like, the other games was just so more excited for me, but this year is so insane. We could do like a top 20, I feel like, and it would feel like legit. That's how many games we have here. So Paul, you're number 7.
It was Hogwarts Legacy.
There you go.
Yeah, and just to mention Lies of P as well, like I Bloodborne's still probably my favorite From Software game overall. If not,
same.
It's like, you know, back and forth between whatever Elden Ring was. But yeah, I really normally don't like Pinocchio and his whole mythology and stuff. So that last year with like 4 different Pinocchio movies, I was like, I sleep. But after seeing the gameplay of that, I've got a hair in my mouth. Anyway, my cats show up. Like yesterday, my cat got up off my lap and slapped me right in the mouth while I was mid-word. And I was like, so anyway, yeah. So somehow Lies of P got me really interested in whatever that's going to be. But yeah, the Hogwarts Legacy we already talked about. So I will defer now to Alejandro. What you got?
Diablo 4. We're already talking about Diablo 4. It's number 7.
Yep,
so,
there we go.
Sebastion,
it just
you're number
moves
6.
faster each time we go.
Yeah. I you know, I bet this one is on someone's list, and I would be curious on where it's at. You know, I have a lot of question marks about this game, but it is Starfield.
I have it also.
Yep.
Yeah, so Starfield, you know, like I know that Todd Howard has a pedigree and everything like that that's a mile long, but you know, I'm a what have you done for me lately kind of person, and yeah, and I did not think that like Fallout 4 or Fallout 76 was just massively impressive. I feel like that engine looks old and dated. I am so curious on what they can do with a modern day take on that, but what I saw in the trailers didn't necessarily wow me. It kind of felt like more Fallout 76 in space mixed in with No Man's Sky. But that said, I'm yearning for this type of genre. I want to have space adventures. I want another game that's kind of like going to be a mixture between Mass Effect and Elder Scrolls. So I want something like this, and I want it to be good. But I do have my reservations about this game. I wasn't really blown away by what we saw in the showcase in 2022.
So I was a little bit more impressed with that than you were. I feel my big thing with that is that, especially with Fallout 76 being the latest Fallout, that wasn't the main BGS studio making it. They kind of like gave support, but there was like a side team. So it's like the last game that they actually did make was Fallout 4. And obviously that was like the first time I was like, yeah, this was the first one of these games that is like, it's really good, but it's not that impressive. But when I think about it, like, this is the next game from the creators of Skyrim. Skyrim is like big, and now they're giving us the space exploration game that we wanted out of No Man's Sky, and No Man's Sky kind of gave us that, but more superficial, because it was like it was an RNG development that was like creating the worlds like based on the algorithm that they created. This feels like something that's going to be more keyed in with actual authored content, like the actual writing that we know from like Bethesda, that I feel like if it actually nails it, this could be a GOAT. Like if they actually nail like the things that they're trying to get, especially because it's so strange that we never get space exploration games. It's like, it feels like that's the one genre that's just so elusive for us, and it's insane. And this one, I was more excited for it last year than I am this year. Like, it was my number 3 last year. It tumbled a few spots in the list for me, but I'm still relatively excited, especially in the Xbox side. I'm like, I've been rooting for Xbox to just do better, because I want them to feel like an actual game competitor to Sony and Nintendo, because if they're not, they're just gonna keep resting on their laurels. And I kind of like how Xbox has been like trying to like prodding Sony into like feeling like they're backing in a corner. And I feel this is the first time that they have a game that when you actually look at it, you're like, if you were only on PlayStation, you didn't have like a good PC to play it, you were jealous. I vividly remember Paul, when he saw that, he was like angry. He was like, I hate that I don't have an Xbox, and now he has a Series S. And I have it too. They convinced me to get one, at least just to be able to experience it in console. But yeah, I'm like, I was excited for it last year. The big delay made it worrisome a little bit, but we'll see. It's probably closer than it can be. Is it in your list, Paul, or did it?
It is actually my number 6.
There you go.
So yeah, I was saving my moment to jump in. I just like you, Alejandro. It feels like for console, our real big options are Elite Dangerous or No Man's Sky for like that big space exploration, and neither of those scratch the right itch for certain things, because No Man's Sky is a much more chill kind of go off, do your thing, jump around, have fun. Elite Dangerous has like all of the more detail and the really cool mechanics and cool landing and taking off, and then everything else is really frustrating unless you really put some time in. It's like, hey, cool, I just light speed jumped into the system, let me sit for 20 real-time minutes while I get to where I need to go. And it's I want like a little middle ground in between No Man's Sky and Elite Dangerous, and I feel like I've been looking for it for so long. I thought like Outer Worlds was going to be something like that, and it just wasn't it for me.
Well, way smaller scale.
Way smaller scale. I wanted to be able to fly the ships, and at least it looks like we're going to get that side of it. We get to customize said ships. We get to kind of dance around with that concept. And granted, I feel like I'm a little more lenient on Fallout's dated mechanics somewhat, just because it feels like a warm blanket sometimes. But granted, I feel like I wish they could have jumped up to a new engine, kind of really branched things out, kind of just put that little extra effort in there. But at the same time, I know what you're about to say, Alejandro. At least I think I do, in that their engine, even though they're saying it's the same one, they've gone through so many iterations of it, it's practically non-existent / totally different from what it was by the time of like Skyrim and Fallout.
They have Microsoft's money this time.
That they do. And that's the other thing, that they are being bankrolled by Daddy Microsoft. And hopefully that means that it's going to be efficiently used in certain places, and it normally was going to be so much higher on my list, but the fact that we have so many other freaking games coming out this year is just putting it all the way down to 6 for me. So
yeah,
that's it for me.
All right,
I'm curious because like I want your take on this. Just do you think that they're giving you a whole lot of worlds to jump into? Like they advertise 1,000 worlds that you can jump into. All those worlds feel like they better have substance, or they're just No Man's Sky, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I think they're gonna be No Man's Sky based on, because they do procedurally generated stuff in their open worlds usually, like Elder Scrolls did procedural generated
like
dungeons in Oblivion. They did a little bit more handcrafted in Skyrim, but
even then it was like a lot of reused assets. At least to point on that, it's like, as long as they do, say like Mass Effect, where you have like 4, 5, or 6 really decent planets where like the real focus is, then it's like, hey, if you want, you can go out to one of the 1,000 planets and then just go have fun with it. Just go, hey, there's dungeons on the planet, go have fun with that. There's pirates, you can go figure that out. Do a Galactic Conquest Battlefront 2 style, just get all of the stuff up, collect it up, make it under your little faction, whatever it is. But as long as like you have a core of like a few planets that are actually focused on, I feel like it would be fine, because let's face it, when you look at a planet, that's a lot of stuff you could do. And if I could kind of get away with just a few of those, and then the rest being lagniappe, essentially.
You know, I to counterpoint though, I'm like, this feels like a big make or break moment for Xbox. Like this feels they've hit miss after miss, and besides Forza, Halo wasn't the king that was promised, so to speak. Like
it fell off the chair basically after a very strong beginning. It was like, ooh, no, you guys weren't ready for this one.
No.
Yeah, that was the king that was promised in like 1780s France, where they were beheading all of them. So it's just, he's like, hey, I'm gonna fix everything, guys.
Exactly. So what I'm alluding to though is like Starfield, even from what you're saying though, like from people who want that Mass Effect kind of like where there's a whole lot of the things to do on a planet, that Mass Effect effect of that. I think 6 planets is going to feel like a disappointment for a lot of people. Like if the fraction is basically 6 out of 1,000, I think people are going to look at that like you drop the ball quite a bit. I feel like they have to swing, especially considering the narrative around not just Starfield, not just like Microsoft buying Bethesda, but like the narrative around the lack of AAA-ness in the library of Xbox. They really have to hit home. Like this thing really needs to have content out the wazoo, right out of the gate. And I feel like 6 doesn't feel like it would be enough.
It feels Starfield is like the entire argument about how Microsoft acquiring all these studios, not just Bethesda, but even what they're still ongoing with the stupid Activision.
Blizzard,
it feels like that them delaying when they did was them putting a statement and be like, we could have, because we put the date on this like way before, we could have stuck in it, but we want this to be quality that we're willing to like take the hit. And Microsoft could afford to take the hit because Game Pass basically carried them. If you were willing to experiment, like it was like they didn't have anything, which it was an embarrassment for 2022. Like that's just fact. Like they didn't have anything other than Pentiment and Grounded, which one was early access game that got out of early access from like years before, and then a tiny game that should complement your big stuff, but that was like the big stuff from like the fall. That it feels like now this is the moment where if we want to believe that even though they have like put out the big bucks and acquired all of this, that they're going to be good stewards of what they're acquiring. And I feel like Starfield, especially being a big game that they took away from the market, because that was initially announced as a multi-platform thing, that then they were like, no, we're making this exclusive. It's like now they have to prove that it going exclusive is going to be a net benefit to the game. And we haven't seen that yet. And they have to, because I want them to succeed. When the three console makers are doing good, we all win. When one is languishing, then the other ones just get too complacent. So yeah, my number 6, it's not Starfield, it's Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, so
pretty low. Okay.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy 16. I was actually a big fan of 15 compared to like how many people were. Like I really vibed with the boy band and kind of like how they portrayed friendship in a game that I haven't felt it has been recreated that way, even as corny as unfinished as it was. But this one being made by Naoki Yoshida, the guy that revived and has been like feeding Final Fantasy 14 into like one of the greatest Final Fantasy stories, one that it's so big and massive that I don't think I can ever get there, but just hearing like what he's done to that game, now taking his chops into a console game that has had a proper budget, a proper development. It didn't have Tetsuya Nomura starting the game and then having it be ripped away from him because it was taking too damn long to be finished. To be finished by like, I don't even remember the guy that finished 15, but it wasn't Nomura. And it being like a DMC style Final Fantasy game because they got the guy that did Devil May Cry 5 combat, and I love that kind of action combat and just the scale of the thing. Like just the last 2 trailers of Final Fantasy 16 are just insane, like with the scale of the summons and how integral they are to the story, and it being an M-rated Final Fantasy, like an official mainline M-rated Final Fantasy game that's not Stranger of Paradise. It's also interesting. Like it feels like they're priming us into trying to tackle more serious subject matter, even though other games have like has some pretty gruesome parts, like the end of Crisis Core, which fantastic game, by the way. Sebastion, you should definitely play that one if you haven't. Yeah. And I want to see more. Like the reason this is at 6 is because I'm just more excited for what's up there, but that doesn't like diminish my excitement. Like Final Fantasy 16, if it launches in June, that is just another feather of what's going to be a very feastful summer for me. So number 6 for Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, this is obviously in my list as well somewhere. And just like to your point, the fact that, I mean, Sebastion, little detail about me is that I'm one of the biggest DMC fans you might ever meet. I read the books, I watched the anime that you could only buy on DVD for a while, I found all of the weird obscure lore, and I loved the games. So the fact they got that dude into the combat of this, and as I watched the combat play out, something changed within me, and I realized that I was kind of burned by Final Fantasy 15, but at the same time, there's a part of me that still really both wanted to like it and did kind of like it. I mean, I walked out of watching Kingsglaive, the movie, and thought that was a good movie because of how cool everything was in it. And
one of the worst.
Oh yeah. Hey, I'm gonna say it's better than Spirits Within any day.
Yes.
So at least I'll get that out of it. But yeah, it's like I loved the world so much that I just wanted the game to line up with how cool that was, and I also loved the whole little boy band teleport, crazy amounts of weapons that I can just summon. I had liked for like since 2006 the original Versus 13 trailer when that was announced, and I was like, this was my thing.
I was in 6th grade when that trailer launched. I was in 6th grade.
That was a time, wasn't it? Now that was like, I'm 14 and this is the deepest thing I've ever seen. And watched all of the weird AMVs of edgy music blast into that trailer. Anyway, the whole point is this might be the opportunity for me to come back into that, even after being a little bit disappointed by the way 15 kind of left me. I'm a little concerned about the M-rated part because a lot of people really like to add content for content's sake rather than having it serve the purpose of the narrative. So I'm a little worried they're just going to be like, what was it that we saw? They're like, hey, we're going to have hate crimes in our game. As if that's a great thing that we added. Like, we've been held back by the fact that we haven't shown really terrible things happen to people. And I was like, oh gosh, this is going to be a little weird. And I'm sure the extra content things are going to be awkward to play in a family room. But anyway, overall, I'm excited. I'm a little hesitant, but at the same time, it seems like it's going to be a really cool adventure, exploration, all that stuff, and combat. So that's it from me.
So is it in your list, Sebastion?
Yeah, it is. It's in my list. We'll be talking about it. We'll reveal where it's at pretty soon. But I really liked Final Fantasy 15 in parts. I feel like a lot of it was lacking, but I am excited about this because I like the setting a lot more. Like, I think the environments look baller. I really like the Godzilla like mega gigantic creatures that you were able to summon.
Goes so hard.
Yeah, it looks like they just took like an anime inspiration, matured it up a little bit and then cranked it up to like 13 and just said, let's go with it. And I'm like, I'm right there for the ride. So I'm excited for this one.
Absolutely. I'll just quickly say that my number 5 was Starfield. So you can, let's flip it. Paul, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Okay, that's also in my list.
Yep. So I figure we're gonna have some things to talk about with that. So I guess I'll lead the charge with that one. My relationship with Final Fantasy VII is a complex and interesting one, but needless to say, not having to go into my deep, edgy backstory, is that I really loved what they did with Remake. I almost forgot the name of it. And then just on the back end of Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, and the weird way that game just ripped my heart out, and I said thank you, and how much fun I had with it, and the things that they changed in Remake, I feel obligated and required to find out what happens. And I feel like it's both a draw and a detriment almost to the fact that I'm so invested in what happens in the story that I know that based on how they're going to go is really going to determine where this game lands for me. Because on one hand, it could be the coolest thing I've ever seen to take a game series that I really loved, and specifically the game from that, and really changing things up in such an interesting and unique way. But I also have a lot of love poured into these characters, and if things happen that I'm not really expecting or hoping for, it may really mess me up. So and I'm not one of those people as much, despite what I just said, where I love misery, but at the same time, I think I need to be warned about it. That's why I like Crisis Core so much, because you kind of know how that's going to end in the end. But this time it's like, hey, we know how it went last time, but we guarantee you don't know what's going to happen, and that makes me anxious. So that's kind of why it's a little lower on my list, but also there's just so many other great games, and I keep saying that for every one of these lists. But yeah, that's what I'm have to say about Rebirth. How about you?
That's also, is it in your list, Sebastion? Rebirth?
No, surprisingly not.
So that's in my list, and it's actually very high in my list, Rebirth. And the reason why it's that high is because of the emotional impact Crisis Core just recently did a month ago, where the end of that game really stuck with me, and it made me appreciate the weight of the changes that are happening with Remake that hinge a lot on how big the ending of Crisis Core was, and how they're like really toying around with that, and potentially bringing back someone whose death was like an entire catalyst for the entire story, and how they're gonna kind of weave that narrative. And coupled with how amazing Final Fantasy VII Remake was as a project, and feeling like maybe they have a good handle on how they're gonna really screw around with the story here, really makes me so anxious and so excited to see how it all plays out. And I tell you, it's like, this would have been lower had I not finished Crisis Core. Crisis Core like fundamentally changed something with me in regards to like the Final Fantasy universe that I wasn't expecting. And Paul feels real prideful because this is a remnant from his
called
edgy,
my shot like a year and a half ago, where I said, "Hey, if you ever get the opportunity to play that game, do it," because it was amazing. Because I got to play it on PSP before they remade it or remastered it, whatever it is, and hearing his responses in real time as he finished the game through our messenger was like, yes, feel the pain and the hurt like I did, but also it let it sit with you. And so that's I think that's almost why it went down in my list, almost just because of the fear of the way they're going to write things, because I'm so invested in how it's going to play out, and I don't trust them to make to have my best interest at heart, frankly. Outside of that, though, I expect like the gameplay to just pop off. I expect the story to be amazing, and in any other day, maybe it would be a little higher, but that's where we're at with that.
So, Sebastion, you're number 5, and then you can see your number 4, and we go back to the flow.
Yeah, before we go to that, though, it's crazy how many games Square is putting out this year, right?
True.
Like, absolutely mind-boggling crazy how many games they're putting out. But yeah, my number 5 on the list is Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn.
Crap.
Oh yeah.
Was that at a Keeley thing, I think?
Yeah. I think it was at that, and I think it was also at the Xbox showcase from last year where they announced the 12 games coming out before the games coming out before the 12 months is over. But yeah, Flintlock looks really dope. It's about a girl who basically is carrying around that big axe. It's made by the Ashen Studios, the same studio that did Ashen back in the day, and it looks really fun. It sort of has a Forspoken vibe with it, kind of mixed in with a God.
I was about to say that it's like a less cringy Forspoken.
Yeah, I was like,
this was at opening night live. I remember.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing this gameplay though. This must have come out after I watched like the original trailer for it.
Yeah, it was
because this is kind of tight, honestly.
Yeah, it's looking dope. It looks it kind of has to me a little bit of Devil May Cry vibes mixed in with Forspoken, very much, and you throw in a little bit of OG God of War in there because it kind of reminds me of that combat a little bit.
It's like it's a different aesthetic, but it reminds me of Evil West, Alejandro.
Yeah, I'm looking at the images too of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, this game to me has the potential. I kid you not, this has the potential to be Xbox's biggest game this year. And I know, like, say Starfield doesn't blow the world on fire, but I hope it does, by the way, because I'm rooting for Xbox here. But true. Say like Starfield doesn't set the world on fire. This to me seems like the game that's going to come out and really just be Xbox's like, this is one of the best games to play on Xbox this year.
And sometimes the greatest excitement comes from the surprises. Like, especially because Starfield has to do weight of expectations over it. So especially if Flintlock is really good, that could be like the nice swerve. That if Starfield is good and then that ends up being good, that's a really good year for them. Especially if Redfall is good. Which is not on my list. So
not on mine either.
Just an honorable mention for me. So you're number 4, Sebastion.
Before I go on to that, I just want to say that Flintlock is also coming to Xbox Game Pass day and date. So I'm like, so it'd be an easy win for all of us, and hopefully that game is good. The other one is another. What's up?
No, did you finish? Yeah.
Oh, another one is another game that's kind of like I feel like kind of going underneath the radar, but it really surprised me when I saw gameplay for it. It's Rise of the Ronin. And
that was at the State of Play. From Team Ninja. Yeah,
the same team that made Neo and such. But
it was it was one of the exclusives, Paul, that Sony announced that it was one was Stellar Blade, the game that made me very
one of their 3 feudal Japanese games that I kind of got lost in. That was the one with like the like Leonardo da Vinci wings and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It sort of has like vibes of almost like. That wing part kind of gave me vibes of like Arkham, but it sort of has vibes of Ghost of Tsushima and kind of like mixed in with a little bit of Sekiro, and the fact that you kind of like get to also like have a gun element to that gun like gameplay, to where you can shoot like that muskets at different times. It looks dope. It looks like a combination of everything I liked about Ghost of Tsushima, and then it looks like it'll be a very quick, fast-paced open world to really dive into. And that Japanese lore, just sign me up for it. I'm always down for that.
Yeah. Is that your number 4?
Yeah, that's my number 4. Not on anyone's list?
No, because it's a 2024 game.
Oh, I thought it was 2023. My bad.
It's 2024.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. Then I'll
right at the end of the trailer, sure enough. For
my
1
bad.
second.
I'll sub that out for Wulong.
You can leave there.
Hey,
Wulong. There you go.
Yeah,
also
I'll
from
sub that up for Wulong.
Yeah.
Also from Team Ninja. Yeah.
Wulong Fallen Dynasty.
I'll sub that out for Wulong Fallen Dynasty. Almost, like very cool, very quickly. Same thing that I liked about Rise of the Ronin. Team Ninja delivers with that quick, fast-paced gameplay. This sort of looks like a kind of like a Souls kind of version of that, and I'm
more
right
RPG
there
Sekiro, because Sekiro is not an RPG.
Yeah,
that was like the big thing, the big takeaway from the demo that they released.
Yeah, the demo was fun too.
Yeah, and Wulong's coming to Game Pass early March, Paul, so you'll get to try it.
Ooh, so much to play. My gosh.
Yep. What's your number 4, Paul?
My number 4 is Tears of the Kingdom.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah.
I will say, I thought that was going to be your number 1.
Maybe if it had come out when I wanted it to, it would still be my number 1. But yeah, it's that, as I've already talked about it, it's it bumped down a few notches because of all the other stuff that's coming out. Anyway, what you got, Alejandro?
So my number 4 is Marvel Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. Okay.
So why it's number 4? I only know it's coming fall 2023. I have trauma of how many games have slipped. Like last year, just God of War Ragnarok alone. Like Paul knows, like just like my cousin Tug and Paul, of me wanting to be excited but not be excited because I had just been so traumatized about how many times I had an exciting game just get delayed. I feel Insomniac can be ones that they say they're gonna release it when it comes, because none of their games have been delayed this generation. But I want to have like at least a peace of mind that I see when they put the stamp of approval. Like, oh, this is coming in September, like the last one. Then that's when like my excitement can like even climb up. But this is my most anticipated PS5 exclusive from like Sony right now, especially now that we're past God of War, because like replaying remaster when I got especially replaying 2018 when I played remaster on PS5 when I got my PS5 2 years ago, was just such a reminder that that's just the peak of the superhero games. Like such an emotional story, such a great representation of the character and its villains and its worlds, and complementing it with Miles Morales, which to me even improved on things from that original game. Is like, I feel like Insomniac right now is like the peak when it comes to like PlayStation first party studios. Like Insomniac is like their big MVP. They're giving them the games that are like universally beloved, like without much scorn, it feels like, especially like compared to like Naughty Dog, which Insomniac and Naughty Dog used to be like very similar in like style sometimes. Right now Naughty Dog, I love them, but people don't feel as strong about them like they used to, in regards, especially after their latest sequel to their big game that has their TV show this Sunday, when we're just to reveal when we're recording this.
Oh, yeah.
Recording really early. We're recording really early, but yeah, Insomniac right now, I feel like they are the MVPs of the PS5 generation when it comes to Sony exclusives, and I'm really excited for this game. More excited to see how they do Venom, how they do Kraven the Hunter, how they're gonna like handle both Peter and Miles together. Can you choose one? Is the story gonna like let you like switch back and forth like many sequels like God of War Ragnarok that switch you back and forth between Kratos and Atreus? Spoilers. Like, I want to see that. And the fact is that it's PS5 only. I've been like harping, Paul knows this, that I've been harping the cross-gen, that I'm like, I just want the full-on next-gen. Just kind of like remove any like question marks of like, this is like super beautiful, but it has a PS4 version, so in some point, maybe something's like holding it back. But the fact that it's just gonna be a full-on next-gen exclusive, can't wait. Spider-Man's awesome. So number 4 most anticipated. It could be number 1 if I knew a date. Let's just put it that way. I like my solid release dates.
Sebastion, is Spider-Man 2 in your top 10?
As Stone Cold Steve Austin would say, Hell yeah.
I would think so. Why don't you go ahead and say your piece on all that? Because I have a feeling it's going to be pretty high like me.
Oh my goodness. What can I say about Spider-Man 2? I am so looking forward to this game. The fact that you get to play as Peter and Miles, the fact that, like I would love it if they did like GTA 5 to where you basically got to like switch at a moment's notice and like the camera pans down and Miles is just eating a taco or anything in Harlem.
Just think about it.
I would love to see them do that to where you can kind of switch at any given moment. But like the fact that you get to play as two, the fact that there's so many good like representations of like Miles's culture and all that kind of stuff mixed in with what we know and love from Peter Parker, and the fact that like the original Peter Parker game, Spider-Man and PS4, like told that such a good hard-hitting story, and then Miles followed up with a smaller but still just as good story. Like I love everything about that world. That swinging feels therapeutic in this game. Like I can legitimately just swing from one side of the map to the other, and it just feels like a chill time for me. The fact that the villains that we encounter in this game, I have a feeling they're just going to go like crazy with some of the villains that we're going to encounter, and some of them that we probably haven't seen both in the DLC of Spider-Man and in Miles Morales. I have a feeling they're going to use some villains we haven't even thought of yet, like Aqua, like maybe like we'll fight Hydra Man maybe.
Imagine they put Morbius,
Sandman. Oh my goodness.
What if we get Kraven's Last Hunt out of this?
Oh my goodness, that'd be so good.
That's Black Suit Spider-Man era right there. And that's obviously what we're trying to do out of this. So, oh man, I'm just so excited for all the stuff with this because, Sebastion, did you have more to share actually?
My last thing I was going to say is like I have such a strong feeling that we're going to get Gwen Stacy at the end of this game, to where not necessarily playable, but that's going to be the next Miles Morales chapter into the Spider-Man universe.
It's like it could be like a Spider-Verse, kind of like wink and
exactly.
nod. Yeah. Oh man, and also shout out to Tony Todd. He's going to be the voice of Venom,
Candyman.
Candyman, and the voice of Zoom in the Flash TV show when it was really good. The voice of Zoom, he's gonna be such a good Venom. Want to add something, Paul? Because I know you love Spider-Man.
That I do, because yes, this is on my list. Oh man, so I'm a guy that loves Spider-Man Web of Shadows from the PS3 360 era, where oh gosh, I used to think it was so cool that he could like switch between the black suit and the red suit at will, and it completely changed his combo set, and you could add combos from one, switch to the other, do those combos, and it was just so cool. Not to mention how you were just such an edgelord no matter what happened, and the fact that we're getting Black Suit Spider-Man again is just going to be great. Venom is one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man villains / rivals, whatever you want to call them, based on the era of comics you started in. And I'm so excited about all this. The fact that Miles Morales is along for the ride is like both an like peer and apprentice almost, as he's learning under Peter, who's more experienced, because we get too much like rebooted young Peter. Like this is how I love it, where Peter's now older, he's grown, he gets MJ back, and now he gets to help Miles through this process. We get that back and forth, just like y'all said, with like integrating the two of them. I really hope we get something like that. If not, like you pick one and the other, it's almost like an assist, like in a fighting game where you kind of get them in for combo attacks or something. Whatever they do, I'm all here for it. And Spider-Man 2018 is still one of the few games that I can just turn on, swing around while I'm like on phone calls, business calls, whatever it's
therapeutic, like Sebastion said.
It's therapeutic. You could walk in and out of combat without an issue, and just utilizing every part of the arsenal that you're given. The amazing customization for those suits. Oh my goodness. Like I'm a sucker where every 5 minutes I'm changing my suit to something else that fits the environment a little better, and I eat that up. So the fact that we're going to get more of that, probably, just yes indeed, that's a victory in my book, and I'm just ready for whatever they've got.
Yeah. And as of right now, as a fall 2023, right now that we know so much of what's coming in the first 6 months, that's one of the few we know that's like later on.
Right.
And again, just I'm personally tempering. Just I've been burned before, and I just want to have this special security of seeing the tweet. We've gone gold. That's always so exciting to see, like, yeah, it's coming. So I want this to be a big fall game. So What's your number 3, Sebastion?
My number 3 is Final Fantasy 16.
Hey.
Nice. There you go.
Yeah, we spoke about it earlier, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. It looks very fun, and I hope it lives up to the hype.
All right, Paul, you.
My number 3 is Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Oh.
Okay.
Because I didn't get to tell you, Alejandro, I went back to Jedi Fallen Order for the next gen version. I never actually finished it. So I went back, was just enjoying that on the big screen. And
same with me.
Thinking about the possibilities of everything that we already know now based on gameplay, trailers, and the fact that Cal is clearly really upping his game for whatever is going to be available in gameplay between the double-bladed lightsaber, the 2 lightsabers he got, the gun he's got strapped to his hip that we haven't seen yet, and all of the other cool Force abilities that he's just breaking out left and right. This dude is becoming the true MVP of Jedi out here. I love the concept behind it, where all of the rest, I've told you, Alejandro, this, where modern Star Wars lately during the Empire rule has been, oh, we can't use our Force powers. We've lost our Force powers because we can't really use it. We can't break out our lightsabers, so we have to use other weapons. And Cal's just like, what? Like it's hard, with a blaster and a lightsaber just busting up, trying to make as much pain for the Empire as possible without trying to hide it in the slightest. And I was like, that is gutsy, and I appreciate it, especially with a game that entirely centers around you having action-packed adventures fighting off the Empire. It's like, all right, let's lighten up this tone, but also get some really crazy stuff going on, maybe. And I'm all here for it. I love the characters. I love the updated visuals, love the updated gameplay, and just everything going on with that game. I'm set. I'm ready. I'm just so excited.
I freaking love Jedi Fallen Order so much back in 2019, especially like how much it reminded me of God of War 2018 in so many areas, which makes sense. Stig Asmussen, who used to work at Santa Monica, made that game. And seeing that sequel at the Game Awards, like how much they're expanding it and how close it is. It's like literally 2 months away before we can like experience that game. And I just can't wait. Like, this is very high, very, very, very high in my list. Not gonna say where, but I think you can infer where.
Yep.
So,
At this point, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell now. Like you're making the math. I'm actually surprised, Paul. I don't know what your number 1 is now.
It's
I can wait.
Honestly, yeah, you can wait.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear.
Yeah. Have we? Let's see. Where are we at right now?
Yeah, we're at 3. So, Sebastion was 3. My number 3 is Resident Evil 4 remake.
All right.
Another one. That's
an
like
honorable
so
mention for me.
Really, just honorable mention.
It is.
Wow.
Somehow, look at all of the other stuff that's been going on, and I could not find a spot for it to fit, unfortunately, with everything else going on. But go ahead and say your piece.
Resident Evil 4 is the best Resident Evil, even right now, even with its data. And this is like, that's a game that I replay every year, no matter what. I absolutely adore its cheesiness. I absolutely love its vibe. Everything that they've been doing with the remakes, with RE2 and RE3, is like Capcom is just like upping the ante when it comes to like remaking these games, and how good RE7 and RE8 have been. That it's been a while since they have missed when it comes to Resident Evil. The last time they missed was 6, if we're perfectly honest, like mainline wise. And everyone was fearful that they were going to change a little too much with RE4, but the big showcase they showed like back in like October to show that they are bringing the visual splendor but also maintaining the over-the-topness. I mean, you can parry a chainsaw with your handgun. Like, come on, that's insane. And I just can't wait. It's also another game that's like so close. So Resident Evil 4, my number 3 for 2023.
Sebastion, do you have that one anywhere?
Not at all. What about you?
Well, yeah, it's honorable mention for me, just because like I'm excited for it. It, like, just like you said, it's probably still my favorite. Just perfectly blending that weird mix of campy and actually like, oh my goodness, this is freaking crazy. That weird set of paranoia and dread that I felt as Leon when I first walked into the village and saw the dude try to rush after me, and then the whole group of the village just slowly turned to hunt me down. Barely. Honestly, I feel like it peaked during that first moment in the village for me, where they were like, the chainsaw dude bust out, I'm like throwing things in front of the doors to not get cut in half, and even though everything else was great in that game, it was like that opening moment was so strong. And so I'm super ready to go back and replay it, and it's going to be one of the games that I play for sure, and who knows, maybe it'll be in my top 10.
Yeah.
But
based on the rest of the list, it makes sense
gosh.
why you want to put it down there. I'm just so excited. I love Resident Evil. So.
Absolutely. Who's next?
Number 2, Sebastian. We're getting close.
Jedi Survivor is me. Like Respawn. I loved everything about Fallen Order. I really want to see where the game takes off after the big cameo at the end of Jedi Fallen Order. I really want to see what happens next.
It's one of the greatest endings to a game ever.
Oh my goodness.
The appearance of Darth Vader. It was like it seems so obvious, but it's like it was done so well in that game.
The just breathing, man. The breathing. It's so good.
And putting Anakin's betrayal music from episode 3.
Big props to the fact that Cal can't even touch him. Some people would really try to be like, oh, there's a big final battle, it's gonna be neck and neck. It's like, no, this is not a fight. You need to run.
Yes, exactly.
Get your ass out.
I love that. And then like the fact that we have like a mount in Jedi Survivor, it makes me think that they're going like bigger with the worlds and bigger with the environments that we can explore. So I'm looking forward to Jedi Survivor there.
There you go. Nice. Number 2. What's your number 2, Paul?
My number 2 is Spider-Man 2.
There you go.
It was up there. I remember how much I loved 2018, and this is no exception. And I'm fully ready, and whatever they have. What about you, Alejandro?
I blame you for this, Paul. Final Fantasy Rebirth is my number 2.
Nice.
Yeah, it was like that. I tell you, it's like this wouldn't be here without how much, like I mentioned, Crisis Core really reshaped my love for this sub-series. It's just it's that ending was so good, and seeing what they're gonna do, like I can't wait. And let me guess, Sebastian, your number 1 is Spider-Man.
Yeah. Before though Paul goes, I sort of want to just guess what his is.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because I'm like.
Y'all want me to at least give you like the tiniest hint?
No.
All right.
Let me throw out one guess. Is it Kill the Justice League?
It is not.
No, he hates the Suicide Squad. So.
I'm not a huge Suicide Squad fan, unfortunately. Now, I will say we've talked about it.
Is that?
I'm trying to look at my lists and be like, Final Fantasy 16.
There it is.
Yeah.
I had a full 180. You can ask Alejandro this. When we were watching like the first trailer or two,
State of Play on June.
I was not on board in the slightest.
Because you watched it at 480p resolution.
I had a busy life. All right, I had to catch it when I could. I saw it on my phone, or at least it was like a dummy
we were like
resolution.
Reacting to it.
That's what it was. And it like for whatever reason didn't upgrade my resolution. So I was like, this looks like crap. What's going on here? But it wasn't like obvious enough that usually it's like 480p. I'm like, oh, it's the resolution is an issue. It looked like it was like just something doesn't look right about this. But also the UI still wasn't updated, and that looked really jarring and terrible. The second was that I wasn't a huge fan of normally focusing on the summons, because the summons always felt like a kind of tertiary background thing. However, I've since understood that the recontextualization of all of this to be like, it's not just about the summons, it's about each of these people is like an avatar for each summon, and they can summon that and like be possessed by the spirit, and then they fight each other and they explore the world. And I was like, okay, this is a lot different than what I expected. And then on top of everything else that we've seen about this game, even with my my fears about certain aspects of it, somehow that game currently is my most anticipated game for next year, and I'm very glad I don't have to wait the entirety of the year to at least experience it.
It feels so nice, right? to like have like
so
some
much.
solid release dates sometimes.
Solid release dates, and the fact that I don't have to wait till like November or December to play it, because that's always the case with this kind of situation.
I'll say this: if for some reason it gets delayed, let's hope not.
Yeah.
It could be pushed there because there's things that they want to get this out because they got Rebirth waiting in winter.
Right, and they can't really afford to wait that long, so I would expect them to release it and then just patch things that weren't working. But overall, yeah, that's that is my number one for sure. But let's who else hasn't said it? Yeah, you haven't said it, and Sebastion, you haven't said your number one yet.
No, it's Spider-Man.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, yeah. That's right. Okay, Alejandro, let's hear it.
Star Wars. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Yeah, Jedi
There was
Survivor.
a point that Star Wars almost did for me, and then I remembered Spider-Man 2 existed, and I went, I gotta put it down.
Dude,
but
Final
at the
Fantasy,
same time,
Spider-Man, and Star Wars as 1, 2, and 3. I mean, come on, like that is a triple whammy. That's a geek-tastic year.
That is a jab, cross, and an uppercut right into my wallet, I tell you, because I had money. I was going to have money, and now I don't think I'm going to have any of that anymore because of everything coming out.
Yeah. That's the thing is, like, just looking at this is going to be the year of the geek. Like, just like the intersection of different, like, mediums getting, like, entries in, like, video games and all that. And looking at this, I'm like, and those being, like, so exciting. That's, like, so cool to me. Just, like, feeling that. And, God, let's hope a lot of these stick. Let's just hope that we're way past pandemic time. It feels like I feel this last fall has given me slightly more confidence that many games that were put in release dates, they actually hit them. That I feel like now it's easier to get a little bit more invested in the fact that those games are actually coming out. That, man, this is gonna be like an insane year. This could be the next 2017, 2018 for me. Like just overall, just excitement that I wanted from last year. That in quality was there. It's just not in the cadence. This feels it's gonna have the quality and the cadence if everything hits. So,
and for the most part, that's just the AAA side of things. Think about like all the major indies that we're gonna have this year.
Yeah, I'm so thankful you brought in like so many indies in, because Paul and I usually tend to like ignore them like until like they're out, because sometimes we see them in showcases and then we forget about them until like they come out. So, oh man.
It's hard to keep track of a lot of them, because I went through a kind of stretch last year and the year before with my love of indies, and then it's kind of disappointed and hurt by a lot of them because
you brought so many like sight unseen.
my one of my all-time excited ones was Little Devil Inside, which still, as of right now, is completely MIA from everything.
I forgot.
Yeah, I've been hurt by a lot of that, but also like the marketing kind of works against it so many times, because you see it really well showcased at like a Game Awards or whatever it is, and then at the same time, then that's the last you hear of it, and then you hear of it and it's been out for like a year, and you're like, oh shoot, that game came out. I guess I'll get to that eventually, and then I never do. And I think that's part of my failure, but also it's just the gap in budget makes me forget games exist sometimes.
That's why I love Game Pass. I feel indies are like really getting good spotlights over there, just as part of like a subscription that I hope Sony started slowly getting there, especially when they put Stray there. But Xbox has been really doing that, and like really highlighting when a big indie goes to Game Pass, like Chained Echoes late last year.
Really good, by the way. Really good.
The one that we saw, Paul, that looked like Chrono Trigger, like in the last episodes. That it wasn't Game Pass. It's still there. So
really good.
I am waiting to get it, because I heard good things since then. One of which is that I think you get like healed and all your MP back after each fight, so you can like just go off every fight for the fun of it, not have to worry.
You have my Game Pass.
You kind of have to go. You kind of have to go off every fight.
Oh, so it's that kind of game.
Yeah,
that life.
It'll punch you in the gut if you don't. But like, it's a really good game. I gotta ask you though, like, what is y'all's way too early game of the year prediction?
Ooh,
I'm gonna take a look at my list again.
So here's the thing, like, I feel just knowing the press that goes in this. I feel Tears of the Kingdom is gonna get it.
It's gonna be up there.
Yeah.
But something else is gonna need to really get, like, if Starfield hits and really hits,
be up there. Yeah.
It's gonna be up there. That's gonna be one. Tears of the Kingdom is gonna be the next one. I think Spider-Man 2 might be the third for that big three-way fight.
Spider-Man 2018 wasn't the nominees in 2018. It's just like it came out the same year as Red Dead and God of War, so the awards got consolidated between those two. Yeah. So I feel Spider-Man could get some, especially if it manages to hit even harder and not having as many obvious like Game of the Year like contenders on top of it. Because it's very easy when people see like, that's just Spider-Man, and completely like ignoring just what an amazing job Insomniac did. I sometimes hate that. I hate the shorthand people give to license stuff without like, especially when some license stuff are like so cool and so well done. So.
And it's coming out in the fall because like that it'll have that recency kind of feel to it, to where like Starfield and Tears of the Kingdom will be out probably like a good 6 months, 6 months previous to that. I do think Tears of the Kingdom is probably a favorite, but if they really do the GTA like 5 version of Spider-Man where you can kind of like pick at any given moment, it's anyone's game at that point.
Oh yes, I feel also Jedi Survivor will get its due this time because remember like Fallen Order came out after the cutoff that year, and then when we circled around, everyone forgot it, and that was so sad because that was my favorite game that year. So, but I did like Death Stranding also, but Sekiro won it that year, and I was like,
nah.
no thanks, stupid flaming bowl that I can right now playing. Like I was playing Sekiro because I did a New Game Plus run of Elden Ring, and then I was like, I'm gonna go back to Sekiro because I want to try to beat all the Souls games. I only have like 3 left. So, real quick, like just read them quick. If you have your honorable mentions with you, just to kind of like without having to dwell on it, what were yours? Yeah. So I can read mine real quick.
Go for it.
In honorable mentions, I had Dead Space, I had Forspoken, I had Lies of P, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, Street Fighter 6, Redfall, Wolong, Atomic Heart, and Alan Wake 2. So what were yours, Paul?
Mine were Meet Your Maker, Suicide Squad, just almost throwing it in there, Life of P, One Piece Odyssey, Atomic Heart, Resident Evil 4, Mega Man Battle Network, and Dead Space.
This year.
Yep.
And yours, Sebastion?
I'm gonna keep it pretty simple. I am going to Octopath 2. I'm going Fire Emblem, and I think my last one is Hogwarts Legacy because I am a Harry Potter stan. So we'll see how those go.
Yes, I'm really excited for 2023. Just looking at it, it feels cool to feel excited about games. I think this last fall, especially December, really like kept a good momentum for like releases instead of like yawning gaps. So man, it's gonna be good. So Paul, I put it in our document. Read the releases for the week of January 22 to January 28, 2023.
Right, it's a pretty small one this time. So we got Forspoken for PlayStation 5 and PC on January 24th. Risen, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch on January 24th. Hitman World of Assassination, the re-release of Hitman 3 on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, PC on January 26th. And then lastly, Dead Space Remake, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC for January 27th.
Insane week. And that's January. That's a preview of what's to come.
And already that's 3 games that are very widely loved, at least, and I have no idea.
And one I'm reviewing.
And one of which you're reviewing, and you kind of jumped the gun on that one, my guy.
Yeah. So, Sebastion, remember I texted you about Forspoken? I hated that demo so much. And I committed to review the game. I'm like, oh, good.
Oh, no.
Good. But I'll say this. I hate it more because that demo had a broken HDR. It was like a washed out mess. I was like, I can't really say that. And the dialogue seemed really annoying. But then I read some of the previews of people that really played like a good chunk of it. And I'm like, that sounds a little bit more interesting. But initially I was like, oh man, I was like so excited to like, because I'll tell the seasoned gaming guys. I was like, yeah, I'm definitely jumping the gun on that one. And then I'm like,
yeah, it is one of those to where like I will say like the motion blur on there kind of like detracts a lot for me. Like looking at everything, it's almost like a dizzying feeling in the demo, at least, not comparing to the actual product itself. But like the demo's a little bit rough. I also think like context is key because like the demo sort of throws you in at what feels like to be like the first, I would say like after the first like probably 6 hours. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like after that, you kind of need that context to really get involved into the world.
That's why I love the Valkyrie Elysium demo from like
That's
from, like,
a good
August.
done.
Because that's the one that actually got me and Paul to buy it, because just getting that demo and also the carrot of, hey, you can carry your progress forward. I like when they do that. Stranger Paradise was another one that we did that because it had that demo progress, and to Paul's chagrin, because he really was not excited for that one, and I convinced him. And then
I
we had
to admit that I enjoyed myself during the demo, and then we had to buy it.
I never told you that story, I think, Sebastion, that Paul, like, the first trailer for Stranger Paradise from, like, 2021, he absolutely hated it. The one that said chaos like 10 million times.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't, like, hate it. It was like, I think my exact words were, 14-year-old me would have loved this, but like, looking at this now, I just... I hate this. It was just like, but I didn't really hate it. It was just like, it didn't feel like there was any substance to it outside of, like, this is edgy boy wearing American Eagle clothes. And that was really it. But then since then we saw a lot more that really showed
Limp Bizkit.
The best of it, yeah.
The Limp Bizkit clip changed everything, because
the memery, that's what really hit me.
Yeah, it's the Shrek 2 of Final Fantasy. We said it in the stream one time.
Yeah.
So Sebastion, that basically concludes this week's episode. Tell us, where can people find you?
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone, thank you. First of all, I want to thank y'all for having me on the show. It was really fun talking to y'all and really just talking about the most anticipated games of 2023. Thank y'all so much. Love to be back anytime y'all would have me. But people can find me at the Single Player Experience podcast. We talk about everything there is about single player games, and we let you know what single player games you should and shouldn't have in your video game backlog. Recently, we've had an interview with a couple of people from PlayStation. We had one from a senior animator from PlayStation. We have another senior animator of a different PlayStation studio. I won't spoil who, coming up on the show. So
you're intriguing me now.
Yeah, so we had a couple of those on the show. We also have a couple of indie dev spotlights on the show where we deep dive into their games, and they basically convince people whether or not they should actually dive in and play, and then we do a couple of pro nerd trivia questions at the end. So definitely check out the Single Player Experience if you want the ins and outs of all things single player games.
Yeah, and my guest spot episode, it's live, right?
Yeah, it is.
So
It is. And
I'll be linking it in the episode that goes live this week when we're recording. We recorded this week early because of scheduling conflicts, but this episode is gonna go live for you, Sebastion, the week of when we were originally going to record. So no waits there. And where can people find you, Paul?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter, where I post me breaking video games and drawing cool stuff. Alejandro, where can they find you?
They can find me at _Dorsegovia on Twitter, at Segovia on Hive, at Alejandro Segovia 93 on Instagram, whenever we stream at twitch.tv/TheSlayerGiant, and my written content at both my personal blog, thecriticalcorner.com, and whenever I review something for seasongaming.com. So, Sebastion, you're always welcome in the show. It's a joy having you here. Whenever you want to have us guest over at yours, just hit the bat signal in the sky, and we'll be there. So
for sure,
a lot of fun, man. That was great.
Yes, I'm glad that you got to meet Paul now, because whenever I met you, I was like, I love podcasting with you. I love your vibe so much. So.
Thank you.
And we want to also thank anyone who's going to tune in or watch this episode. And we're excited for anyone to follow us in the ride for what's looking like a very scary looking, exciting 2023. Until then, people, stay healthy, stay safe, and remember,
press X
to play.
Peace.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta la vista, baby.